when it's online, the whole social issue part disappears. And I just, my experience was they were great people to talk to. And, some of my students who are on the border and they're a little afraid of data, they could get into that. And they could be pulled in, and these people pull you in.
Yeah.
But I'm done telling you.
All right, here we go. To talk about as I keep ending.
We're live streaming.
I'm gonna want to know the kinds of things.
There you go.
Into that, I'm gonna.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Welcome, everyone. Excuse me, to the February 20th, 2025 meeting of the Housing and Homelessness Committee. My name is Rich Mintz, and I'm the chair of the committee. Tonight, we are joined by Community Coordinator Brian Lafferty. This meeting is called to order at 6:34 p.m. As a reminder, New York state law requires all committee members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time it is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. Members who are here in person, which we don't have any now, but we may get some, you can raise any questions that you have by raising your hand. If there's time following the committee discussion, we'll feed questions from the public. Nat Gilani has volunteered to take minutes tonight. He is not here, but he will take minutes from the recording. Thank you, Nat. We will now take attendance by roll call. Brian Lafferty will conduct the roll call.
Thanks, Rich. Committee members, I'll call your name. When your name is called, please say present. I'll announce if there is quorum. Kyle aside. Kyle. Eric Goldberg.
Present.
Thank you.
Nat Kalani is excused. Katie Landa. Don't see Katie. Sandra Leptoff.
Here.
Thank you. Alec Militant.
Present.
Thank you. Rich Mintz.
Present.
Thank you. Livia Shredder.
Present.
Thank you. James Spears, excused, and Jerry Weinstein.
We see you.
See you. Thanks, Jerry. Okay. So we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of 10. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time for the board office, and in a moment you will see it on the screen in front of you. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. I do not see any hands raised. So, seeing no objections, the agenda is adopted. The minutes from the December 16th, 2024 meeting are being reviewed. They will be distributed to the committee when they are ready. Some ground rules. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, no one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and I will identify you so you can speak. Committee members unable to attend in person, if you have a question about committee business, you may raise your hand for Zoom, and I will identify you so you can speak. It is extremely important that only one person speak at a time so people watching at home can understand what is being said. The chat function for committee members present via Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. Such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to technical difficulties or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record. So our agenda is in two parts, which are related. And today's meeting, I think is going to be more conversational among the members than the ones where all we're doing is business. In fact, as I understand it now, we're not even going to have anything we have to vote on today. We are just sharing information and preparing ourselves to take some action. And the first topic is a discussion of carrying out a housing survey in our community district, so that we can understand the makeup of housing and the availability and where the shortages are, so that we can understand affordability and so that we can do more effective community outreach to engage and empower tenants. And I guess I'll start by asking Sandra if you have any words you want to say about this, since this is an initiative that Sandra has spearheaded, and she's been moving on multiple fronts to move it forward.
Oh my God.
So.
Yes, yeah, I'll just go back to how this came about when Danish, short, I can't say the last name. And she gave that presentation on good cause eviction. And we said, oh, it would be great if we could really let the community people who it's relevant for know about it. And then we realized we didn't know who it was relevant for, and we had no real map of the community. There's all those provisions, like it has to be buildings before 2009, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have any of that data, so it was like, wasn't gonna get us where we want, we couldn't get there, so I reached out to Dana, who then suggested we get in touch with CB4, which we then met with CB4. Sandy also was there.
So who was on that? You and I were on that, and Alex was on that, and Sandy. Yeah, okay.
And 2 members of board 4, I
And
believe
2
the
members.
housing people.
Yeah, they have 2 chairs, and I think both the chairs were there, and someone else is there.
And the context here is that Community Board 4 has been one of the most aggressive in the city in pushing for both housing supply growth and affordable housing.
And I believe they had done something similar, right? Like they had completed a.
Well, that's.
Well, they did, that's how we got to
Yeah.
them, and when I read it carefully, it was in fact, they had hired an organization to do it. I had first thought they had done it
Okay.
themselves, but
It being the housing survey?
yeah, their
Yeah.
housing survey. But they also, it's different than our community, because they had Hudson Yards, and they had, so they had this development that then comes up and really transforms that neighborhood. And so they're great spokespeople for in general housing. They also, I just want to say, they have a committee of 15 people.
A housing committee of 15 people?
The numbers at
Yeah.
CB4. And I think that makes a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got a lot of people to do the work, and they're quite activists. I knew some of them in SAR, they're great activists. Anyhow, so we met with them, and
they talked about some of their tactics.
Yeah.
Over the years.
Once they got the data, then they could use that as their weapon. They weaponized it, it was great. And, but they needed that data in order to have the discussion of, we need this, or we need that, or you can't do this, and so on. So the notion of collecting that, making a real effort to get the data that we need really seemed crucial. Dana then hooks us up, God bless her, with Just Fix. Just Fix is a housing organization, which does great data collection. The people know them because they did the Who Owns What, which.
Oh, the landlord database.
Well, yeah, with
Yeah.
all the bad landlords, you can
Yeah.
look up what your landlord does and doesn't do. It's great, but they're use the computerized data sets in very good ways. They went from there, well, I'll just mention because you were there. They helped organize this organization called Housing Data Coalition, which really brings in young people. But Al, could you just speak about it for a minute? Because you just went to the last meeting.
Yeah, so I attended the Housing Data Coalition monthly meeting last night, and it was a great meeting. I told them that we're thinking about doing this thing, and they have a lot of great resources. They're a group of really passionate people that try to take and synthesize data about housing, so that way they can have informed information about it.
And they can use it for activism.
Yeah, they make it public. It's on their website. They present findings of this data, and they use it to help people make, I guess, empower them in order to make better decisions and to make, to give them the power in order to stand up and fight, to stay in their home or to advocate for certain housing issues.
So they're a resource for a wide variety of advocacy groups and tenant organizations.
And they will work in collaboration. I've seen them actually they'll work with communities on a particular issue, and they'll collaborate with them, which is terrific.
Yeah, it's great. And so, last night was their monthly meeting I attended. I anticipate getting in touch with them and working on, with them in the future about this. And it's a
Do we know how they're funded?
I don't. I don't wanna speak out of turn. I really have no idea.
I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with it. I'm just curious about where the
There-
energy
you know,
comes from.
I don't know.
yeah. One of the, I think they also, what they were using was a facility downtown before COVID. I think by the, somebody's good, uh, good intentions, but they lost that. So now I think they're online now because they don't have a place. I don't think they have the funding. So in answer to your question, Rich, I think each of those organizations has sources of funding. One you want to keep in mind, that I know Just Fix taps into is, Trinity Church Wall Street, which, is one of the largest landholders
Yeah,
on downtown, right? And so I think in compensation for their guilt, which is good, they give lots of money to, they have a large philanthropic part, and so I have checked it out. If you check who they're giving money to, they're doing, to a lot of organizations who are doing work in housing.
Mhm.
So including Just Fix, haven't looked at the other organizations, but I've looked at like Gothamist and the city and so on, all were doing very good work on, journalism and
Yeah.
housing. So that would be one important.
okay. We have a hand up from Jerry Weinstein.
A moment ago, were you referring to funding for Just Fix, or was it something else?
It's the coalition,
Housing Data Coalition.
which is, they're the people who make Just Fix.
No, Just
Right.
Fix is, no. There are a number of
Oh,
organizations.
they're separate.
They're independent of.
It's
Okay,
like,
just-
Andy, if you had an academic meeting and everybody showed up from different
Yeah.
schools, that would be, sort of Housing Data Coalition. They're just,
Oh, so they're like an
It's-
umbrella
it's-
organization of all
It's
of
a
the,
coalition of,
Exactly.
it's a coalition of people who are really passionate about housing and housing data that come together to work to achieve these.
Okay, great.
goals.
there's one like, it's called Heat Seek. There's Just Fix. Heat Seek is.
Yeah, if I may,
What?
I've worked with both of them. So in the past, I actually have, I almost forgot it. I have a meeting with George, who's their founder. This is Just Fix Tomorrow. One of the ways they get funding is their portfolio company. They were in the Robin Hood program for Catalyst at Blue Ridge Labs. And I know less about the coalition. I would imagine it includes folks who are more broadly in data, like both Data and Society and Beta NYC, and then folks like Housing Justice for All. That's just off the top of my head. And
Okay.
HeatSeek, I know them very well. I know just from this week that Noel, who was the founder, has left. But what HeatSeek did, unless you share that, was give people, it was a program that is, sadly, I would love to see it scale throughout the city, cloud-based thermostats, so that instead of waiting for inspectors, instead of it being he said, she said, you could actually report and it would be verified what your temperature was. And I was
Oh.
in a pilot with when Noel started, and it made an immediate change where for years back and forth with my landlord, when this was cloud-based, I had an immediate response.
Wow.
All right.
So I'd love to get an update, even though Noel's not part of it anymore. I don't understand why they haven't been more widely adopted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Sandra,
Okay, yes.
your idea is
Yes.
that we do our own survey.
Yes, so, yes, with a lot of encouragement from Dana, we'll say, and also from from our little group here, that it seems one of the things that would be very useful for us in general as a committee, would be to understand our community on a database level. So if we want to propose something, we're proposing it not based on our sort of hearts,
Yeah.
but on our minds. I'm sorry, that may not be the best distinction.
No, I mean,
You get the
it's
point.
true. It will help us make more informed decisions
Exactly.
as a committee and as a board if we have this,
Exactly.
I guess, database of information.
And as you said, earlier this week, it will also help us update our district needs statement to align with what we actually need.
Right.
Exactly,
Rather than-
right. That's
right,
what I
yeah.
said. It's premature to do a needs statement if you don't know
Yeah.
what your needs are.
Right, exactly.
Are you thinking that
Yes.
we would do a survey of like housing types
Okay,
and
so let
rents
me
or?
just sort of,
Yeah,
let
great.
me just sort of probably sketch it out. So again, Just Fix was very helpful for us to try and organize how to think about this and how to, what we need. And it helped me to sort of come up with a bit of an agenda and talking to them. But if what we're talking about are the housing issues in our community, then the first thing we need is a list of what we think are the relevant issues, the relevant categories that we might want to begin to gather data on. So I have a list, I can read you that list. Their position was pick 5 or 6 of those,
Mhm.
and then go for that. Don't start off with very broad. I think that makes sense also.
Cause you can always go out more later.
Yeah, but and when we'd also have to then, in this list, I shall read in a minute. It would be a base also to work with Just Fix, who would work with us. And God bless Amy, she said, they need money. I didn't think about the money part. So she already had that, and they need funding to keep themselves going. But again, once we have that, we then have a basis of pursuing sources of information on our own, but also working with these groups in the Housing Data Coalition. It's like this gold mine of these groups who can help, who can work with us. What I would try to find out, and didn't get very far, is who else in the community boards has done something like this, so we have a model. CB4 has its own hierarchy.
Yeah.
And it's rather selective. So I think for us, what we want, because we haven't anything like this, is to piggyback off of some of the community board that's
Yeah.
done it, so we know what has been useful to them and so on. So I did speak to Sandy about that might be something she could bring up at the
borough board.
At the borough board,
Yeah.
thank you. But so far, I don't know
Yeah.
where we are, but so far as I know, this hasn't been done. It seems obvious that it has been done because you need it. Anyhow,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna give you,
Your list.
I'm gonna read you, I'm just gonna do it reading it so I won't get off topic. But one of the things we wanna know is, what are the nature of the problems that we face in our community? What's the nature, a general idea of what goes on in housing in our community, so that we know what is here now. And what is it that we feel from that we want to then work on in a sense of how do we want this community to look like, how it does look, and how we would like it to look, right? And then we have a basis for advocacy,
Mhm.
right? And database advocacy. I want to say heart and mind, but you put it much better, what you say. Said heart and mind. I said we go with the heart and we should go for the mind, but okay. Anyhow, so, I'm just gonna I'll do this very quick. So these are the goals as I thought about them. First one, we need to know what kinds of affordable housing. I'm gonna direct it at affordable housing because that is how I think.
Mhm.
Again, that may not represent the general interest of the.
I mean, I think that's where the need is for information, so.
Yeah, but it gets more complex. So one is we want to protect the existing affordable housing. We'd like to know, on that, we want to promote affordable housing in new and renovated developments. We want data easily available to the community, so I thought through mapping would be great. And then, then we need the budget. Okay, so, here's I'm going to give you some idea. The first thing is we need to know what the categories are that we'd be interested in. So I have a preliminary list, and it's what we should be working on. It would be so I'm just this is the list as I did it. So I'm with the idea that it's a work in progress. So we would want to know what the market rate apartments, what that looks like, along with some ideas of what the rents are approximate. The rent stabilized units, we know the rent stabilized, of course, is an area which is declining for various reasons we'll go into. Public housing, that's a niche, subsidized housing, including Section 8 housing and others. Community land trust buildings, which in probably there are not many, shelters, What I also put is the date of, the certificate of occupancy. Since that's relevant, in the good cause eviction, right, depending on what that date of.
Oh, when the CFO was.
Yes,
determines.
exactly, because that tells you, if you want to promote, you want to help people learn, you want
Yeah.
people to know about what it is, you gotta know what the CFO is.
Yeah.
So, again, this is, once we would decide on a list, that, you know, then you find out how you find that information out. Okay, let me see if I, oh, also, senior housing,
Mhm.
veterans, I said shelters.
And supportive housing, yeah.
Supportive housing, yes, thank you. Let's see if I have anything else here. Apartments, apartments uses Airbnbs, that one particularly grates on me, but that's beside.
Those should, there shouldn't be any more. Well, I mean,
They're now, you know.
there's a limited registry.
But
of them,
they're
yeah.
attempting to increase
true.
the number.
It's true.
And by the way, there are plenty of those illegals, right?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Okay, so that's as far as I got, I'm sure.
Can I ask you a question about the market, apartments? When you say, when you say the rents, do you mean you want to know the rents people are paying now under their current leases? Or the market rate rent for apartments that are not on the market, that are unoccupied? Cause on average, people will be paying less than what the market rate is for empty apartments.
Yeah, well, that would be a question of.
Okay.
That, I hadn't decided, you know,
Yeah.
I was just trying to list, if we look in our community, what kinds of apartments do we have?
Mhm.
That was the origins of the list.
Do you care about things like apartment size, square footage?
Yes, that goes, yes,
Okay.
but that's gonna be, that goes on, so let me.
Okay, keep going, keep
Yes.
going.
And then the next one that we would want to look at is, the changing patterns of housing over time, if we can get that data.
Yeah.
The change in the number of apartments that have controls on them, market rate, and so we get an idea of what kind of housing is declining and what's increasing, and that gives us again a sense of advocacy.
Yeah.
If we see all those rents, well, stabilize whatever with its controls on it, you just see it's going down, that's important. The next category was 421A housing. We want to know what the expiration dates on those are,
Mhm.
because plenty of those were not permanent, and that's really
That
important.
will influence the cost of housing in the future as they
Absolutely,
expire,
right,
yeah.
and somehow that gets pushed under the rug, I think. Okay, okay, yes, the next one was the data on apartment size in affordable housing units, and the proposed size and construction through City of Yes Housing, right? And you know my obsession with the percent AMI and making, you know, them too small, making
Yeah.
apartments small and forgetting about the 30% AMI, et cetera, et cetera. So actually collecting data on proposed size, taking a look at City of Yes, what are the proposed affordable housing that they're offering, proposed sizes of those,
Mhm.
and who they're making them available to in terms of the AMI that they're using. So we'd actually know who they're actually making these apartments available to. Most of the time, they're at most 2 bedrooms. That's like already
Yeah.
a big deal. But has very little to do with true family size. That's
But we don't know
Yeah.
About apartments that are going to be created as a result of City of Yes until they're
That's
proposed,
true.
right? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, again, that's beyond, yes. I don't know, when they propose, well, Sandy's here now, so maybe, I'm sorry.
I mean, I guess we know what the sort of potential increase is based on the change in zoning rules, but
Mhm.
we don't know what will actually be built.
Right.
Right, yes.
Can I pause you for a second? Because Jerry's had his hand up and I want to let
Okay.
him
I have one more
ask
thing.
his, oh,
Okay, go
wait,
ahead.
she's got one more thing.
Yeah, and, the S one, and again, it depends on what our interests are. Collecting data on community centers and proposed ones, because it seems to me in our community, we don't have social spaces.
What is a community center in this context?
See, we don't
Yeah,
have.
I mean, we don't really.
Right.
Maybe they're senior centers, which
Right.
are a subset of community
Yeah,
centers,
but
right?
the idea is the same, right? Where you
Yeah.
have a space where people give a lecture, or you take an art class, or
Yeah.
blah, blah, you know, so that they're, or somebody wants to, you know, have one of those parties you hold at Tudor City, which were great.
It's the kind of place my socialist grandparents spent all their time, you know, in community center.
You know, there were apartment houses that were built in the Bronx,
Yeah,
and they were built by the unions.
yeah.
Oh, so you know those.
No, I mean, I know about one in the Queens, Leicester.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're wonderful. And,
Yeah.
and the Tudor City one, in certain ways where we went, oh, you weren't there. You were there with your wonderful, all right, never mind.
all right.
Yes.
Could I just, this came up actually, I think it was the health committee asked for a community center, and the response back came from the Parks Department because they thought it should be in a park, I guess. So we really do need to define
Yeah.
what we think it is. And I mean, we have a senior center on 23rd Street. We have different social group. I mean, there are places you can go to hear a lecture that are more like the Japan Society, the
Right.
Scandinavia House. We do have places like that. So we need to be pretty clear about what.
Right.
So I think maybe a first step is to take kind of this list that you compiled and to define
Absolutely.
each and every single one of those, so that way we have a clear cut definition of what we want, right? Affordable housing, okay, subsidized housing, well, what kind of subsidies are we looking at? What kind of subsidies do we want to research and include in this? How are we defining community centers and community spaces? And then from there, we can go and collect the data and use that to
Absolutely.
analyze what we have and what we don't have.
Right, absolutely. And Cindy, I'm gonna go from that, and I think that absolutely is the first step. So you're right, I just did.
It's like a high level,
Yeah.
high level, overview of what we need, and then from
Right.
there we can just sort of refine it and define everything.
Right, and when we spoke to Just Fix, was their position pick 5 or 6 of these categories? They said limit, but it was a limit on the categories we were picking. Was that your impression?
I think Just Fix, I mean, they're not for profit and they can do some assistance, but I believe they were looking for funding. So
Right.
funding based on, the funding would be based on how in-depth we wanted to get what particular pieces of information we
Right.
wanted, and whether they were readily available or if they would have to do
Right.
some work to.
Just for clarity, are they looking for funding from us?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, I thought they were also looking for other sources of funding.
Well, they mentioned they do have other sources, but if they're going to do a major,
Yeah.
yeah,
thing for us,
study.
that they didn't say we had to, but it's, it's understood that they need.
Of course.
Is it okay if I call him Jerry? Cause he's
Yeah.
been,
Let
wait,
me just do
okay,
one last thing,
Okay.
and then when we were with them, I thought one of the things they said was limit your categories, don't, and did they mean things like, well, we can look at market rate, we can look at rent stabilize, all of the categories that I've listed. Were they saying, don't go off in too many directions because they had some idea of take 5 or 6 categories, but I wasn't sure what they meant with that.
I think it may go back to what Alex said, that, we need to define pretty clearly what we
Okay.
want to know if it's easily available.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm done.
well, you're not done. You're coming back, but, Jerry, please.
Yeah, hi. I just didn't want to forget this. I would like to volunteer to be the repository for any articles. I could set up a Google Drive or use Evernote, both of which I use. And, just you spark when you say anything like certificate of occupancy. We had both the controller's office and our Attorney General Tish James both had work recently where Brad found so many buildings without COs, including some Adams connection. And what was published this week was Tish's office found against a particular development management company that I forget the exact same thing, but they were they were overcharging, and she reclaimed basically 40 rent stabilized units that people were unaware of. So just that sort of stuff where I'm happy because I read all this stuff if you folks want to send me articles, I'll organize them.
That would be great.
Yeah.
If you, especially if you stick them in a Google Drive that anyone can read, that would be great.
Okay.
So, as we think about next steps here, Sandra, well, I mean, did you have more that you wanted to talk through before we?
I don't know, let's see. I think that was probably. I think it was probably that's our starting
Yeah.
point. I think that was the main thrust that
So our next steps are to define a more precise plan of what research we want done.
yeah, right.
And, okay, and then, and what's, critical and what's nice to have.
Yeah.
So we can go back to, and we can like define a big thing and say, these are the ones we want now.
Mhm.
And so that we can go back to Just Fix and say, what do you think of this? How easy would this be to do? That sort of thing.
Yes, there's another, it's not just fix, we haven't somehow got to Furman Center. Furman Center is a
Center, yeah.
major resource, so.
They are a resource of data, but they won't do analysis for us, will they?
I don't know,
Yeah.
we haven't yet met with that person,
Okay,
so
all right.
we'll find out.
Well, that's good.
And I
That's
would
good.
also go to the Manhattan Borough President
Uh-huh.
on this, and the Manhattan Borough President also may know, I don't know who our contact is there, but might know if other community boards have done this, but also might be a resource.
Yeah.
Either for analysis or for funding. So
Yeah, that's
it's something
great.
to keep in mind. Okay.
That's great. So what do you, what are the next step? Well, first of all, Sandra, do you work well in Google Docs that are shared with other people?
I'm very old.
I mean, it's not a criticism. I'm just trying to figure out what the most,
They wanted
works
me to
best
give
for everyone.
my sign at the housing coalition.
I'm just trying to figure out what the most practical way is.
What?
I
I'm
just,
sorry. No,
no, it's
I can
fine.
work on, my grandson will help me. It's not a problem. I'll make
Okay.
him sit down with me.
Okay. Because
my
if we could
students do
like
that, I
work
don't know.
together on a
Yeah,
document, it would be
that is,
easier.
you're absolutely right. That's absolutely what we have to do.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Who can help me here? No.
I mean, I can, we go ahead. Jerry, is that you?
I'm just always available to help if you need any help.
It's just
Okay.
like a Word document that everybody can access.
I know. I
All
know,
at the same time.
But what are you distributing through? Just the?
It's in a website, and when you go to the website, you see the document.
Yeah, just consider that it's a shared vehicle and you can see any changes, previous versions, and then we can all know what we can look at comments and so on.
Mhm.
But don't we need a
My students
Gmail
use it all the
address?
time. What?
You need a Gmail address unless we make it world readable, which yeah,
Okay.
we might as
Okay.
well.
Is that,
It's not really confidential or anything.
yeah, no, it's just that catches people up sometimes.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. And you don't have a Gmail address, you have, you
No, I
use,
have to have a Gmail address. I don't use it.
well, if you're willing to use it, then just for this.
Just for this.
Yeah.
I'm willing to compromise.
All right.
So
Okay.
I think that's great. I think that should be so the first thing is take that list. And then we put that on, start with this. No, what we start with is, I can do my list.
Yeah, you spit out your list.
Yeah.
I spit out the list, but then what we want are additions, subtract, then we want the commentary and
Yeah.
also additions, right?
And I think we want more precision about exactly what. numbers we're
Defining
looking
those
for,
things
definition.
specifically, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I think we have to
Yes.
think too about the uses of the data, like how do we
Absolutely.
want to use the
Right.
data?
Oh, that's true.
That will
Right.
really determine what we prioritize.
Well, yeah, I think though somehow, I think in the process of doing this, you begin to,
It's both
I
sides.
think it's both sides
Mhm.
happen, so, as we're sitting here talking, which I actually love, we begin to figure out, well, if we get that, what are we gonna use it for,
Yeah.
and so I think it's a two-way street,
Well, why don't let's go off of what Katie just said.
yeah.
Like, when you think about the reasons we're doing this, one of them, it sounds like, is to help tenants protect their rights, right?
Yes, good way to put it.
Another one is to help make sure that new housing meets the actual community needs, rather than just being for-profit enterprise for the people who build it. What other things would you want
I
to
don't know,
achieve?
I started getting into your, but one is, it's about in general also informing
Mhm.
the community about what their community is, so
Mhm.
that they have they're aware and that we become, that there's more interaction. And I think of from the point of view of the community board, it's more an interactive process that we go through.
Yeah.
So with an informed community, they can actually be part of this, wherever we're going with it.
Okay.
Yeah, there was something else, but, okay, and that was also the mapping part, because then it's easy to, if we get an idea and people can get into the mapping itself, enables them to, think about it. So it's about advocacy, maybe we also this, of what's coming.
Mhm.
It's about, this gives us a vehicle to act, to protect what exists, to give people in the community a voice, and for us to work collaboratively.
Okay.
With-
And to set an example for other community boards,
Absolutely.
which I know our chair would like us to do.
And I think to help other committees and the
Yeah.
entire board as well, make more informed decisions
Yeah.
about proposals that come forward.
Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry, one of the things that we did talk about too is that, in our budget request, this came back as, we really need to be, we say we want more affordable housing, but it's too broad.
Right.
It's too general.
Right, now we could point to something and say, well,
We want more of
X%,
this.
Yeah.
we have 5% of this much, or
Yeah.
3,000 of this,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
I mean, like you said at the beginning of
Affordable
this.
to who?
Oh, go ahead.
Too, because affordable is like usually pretty high income.
Yeah.
Right, and then hopefully
absolutely.
with this, information, we'd be able to find out just what we have.
right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it sounds like what we're moving toward is convening a subcommittee that basically everyone is on
Good.
to work together
Everyone is
on a sort of a shared plan for this. And I think if we have roles, Jerry is the logistics for that. Sandra is the motive force, and Alec is the voice of precision. Does that
Sure.
does that line up
Sure.
about right? And Sandy is the voice of the political implications.
I think we need to give Livia and Eric.
Yeah.
She's the voice of money too, I got it.
Yeah.
You think money.
Add is that there is, as part of the Spark agreement, the city has agreed to do a study of what potential there is in our district for affordable housing. And we want to get ahead of them, so unfortunately, we have a bit of a deadline.
Okay.
I'm not sure I follow that. The city, because of Spark,
Because we asked for affordable housing as part of the Spark development, and
Yes.
we did not get it. The
right,
city has agreed to do a study, and it's through the city planning.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
What
not
is-
to be
what
too
is their
cynical,
deadline?
well, they said it's second quarter, I mean, they have no deadline, but once they-
Second quarter of this year?
Yeah, but that's so July.
Well,
Okay.
then how about they meet with us in doing that, right? And
Oh,
then,
absolutely.
so that should be one of the initial issues and I would like to know where they're getting their data from. That would be very helpful to us, right? So there are specific questions we can ask them, but they should be here first.
They may not have any data.
Well, I'm sure they don't, but at
they
least
get
we're
it.
gonna find that out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But they've got to start with us, and that's the deal.
But all I'm saying is that if we could have some of this information and some kind of idea, because their proposal is going to be rezoning. Which will then bring
Sure.
into,
Yeah.
city of yes will then start to kick in.
Actually, I'm just gonna say, I disagree with you that we have to have the data. I think more to the point is we have to hold them accountable to let us know how they're gonna produce the data, rather than we show that we've done it already. And so that would be,
Yeah, I don't think we need the data, but we
Yeah.
need our strategy.
Our strategy,
that's
yeah.
fine. Okay,
And I want to go back to what I was saying earlier when I was like assigning people responsibilities. I would like you to, if you are willing, to be the voice of practicality. As we think this through, to keep your mind on how the numbers that we're talking about are things we could use to advance the goals that we have.
Mhm.
Because I think you raised a very good point that numbers by themselves are not worth anything to us. They're worth something if we can use them, or as you said, weaponize them
I didn't say that.
to get things that we need.
Mhm. Okay,
We also didn't give Eric something.
Yeah, we didn't give Eric a job. Eric's,
You want me to have a job?
yeah. What's the right job for you in this?
I don't know. What job do you think is right for me?
I mean, I
You've
guess
known me for a while. I mean,
true.
you should have a profile
I mean,
of what
my
you think I should do.
profile is, you're the troublemaker, but,
Hey. That's what my
no,
mother said.
I mean, I really think this is a collaborative effort among all of us. I'm kind of kidding when I give out jobs, but I do want to make sure that we think about all of the things that I mentioned, the like emotional need, the precision, the goals, and the mechanics of getting the work done. So,
Can I also raise one?
yeah,
One of the things we also need is how to use the resources that exist, like open data.
which is our other topic, right, for today?
Right, and it fits right
Yeah.
into this, right?
So let's sort of bleed over into that topic. But what's our practical goal? That by our next meeting, we have a defined proposal of what we want in terms
No,
of
that's
data?
ridiculous. How about by our next meeting, we have a list of categories that we have defined,
Okay,
and that makes sense to us, and we proceed from that. That's what I would
Okay.
think. We could get that
so
far.
we have like the universe of possibilities
Right.
laid
Right.
out.
So but the first thing is, and the question would be, how are we gonna, so I gave you a preliminary list,
Yeah.
right? So if we're gonna, let's make a sort of timeline set that we wanna do, is we wanna come up with a set of categories,
Mhm.
however many, I don't know how many.
Types of data we might want collected.
Yeah, right, and so I was trying to be specific, clearly I was not, I know that.
No, I mean, you started at the right level.
Yeah, but then the second part is then, and I think we need this done by the next meeting, is define those categories as
Mhm.
best we can as an opener,
Yeah,
okay? Does that
Agreed.
sound like a reasonable?
and to
goal?
think, as Katie said, about what we would do with each of these kinds of
Absolutely.
information.
Yeah, so it's a given,
Okay.
terrific.
That sounds good.
So can I also ask, then how would it start? I mean, somebody's gonna start the Google.
So
Docs.
the way it would start is Jerry will create, Jerry, I'm assigning you things, tell me if this is wrong. Jerry will create a Google Doc that we can all share. And then you can copy your
Just
Word
what I
doc
just-
into it, or Jerry can copy it for you, and then it'll be there and we can all work
Okay,
together.
terrific. No, I'll work with
Okay,
grandson.
okay,
Okay,
that's fine.
and I'll get the list. You just want the list at this point, not.
Yeah, the list is
I
the
just-
important thing, because that's
Yeah,
how
I know.
we're,
Guys, have it all written out in
Jer-
paragraphs. That's not gonna work.
Jerry, your physical hand is up.
Yeah, my idea is to actually create a folder. So
Okay.
name what this first task would be, and then really as we get more granular, have a place to put things. Right.
Okay.
So
Sure.
I'm even thinking, and in that master document, if you will, there should be one, it becomes an updated table of contents pointing to the other documents. So even I'm thinking from what I'm hearing here is the resources, that we're going to, whether or not it is Just Fix or my friends at the Housing Rights Alliance or Beta NYC, to find out if, apart from the intersection of data, if they have somebody who's knowledgeable about housing or vice versa.
Okay.
And we can just all keep adding information, and there are various ways. I mean, you can, if you go into a document, you can show comments and see if anybody has changed and updated things. Because one of the, two things that I'll hand Mike over is, I didn't hear discussion. I think rent burden is something that I would want us
Burden, yeah.
dating. And then an overlap from a data perspective between the annual slumlord list that the controller's office does 5 borough-wide within our district. So those should rise to the top, just like most dangerous intersections, most dangerous slumlords.
Yeah.
There we are.
Okay. All right. So we can coordinate after the meeting about the practical logistics of getting that started, but thank you. Can we pivot just for a few minutes to the other topic, Sandra, which is building resources for people to be aware of their rights and so forth? What were you thinking of when you was putting that on the agenda?
I was actually, it was two parts. One is.
Okay.
Is building our own, our own knowledge base.
Which is kind of what Jerry is talking about helping us with, building our own.
Well, no, I meant like learning how to
In our
use
minds.
open data.
Yeah.
I meant it quite literally, there are, yes, one is to know where the resources are, but then it's also knowing how to use them. So even who owns what seems obvious, but there are all refinements would be
Yeah.
nice, once you get to those websites, how you actually make use of the data.
Okay.
So one is about getting ourselves knowledgeable, right? The second one you're talking about is making this available to the community,
Yeah.
right, and how we do that. Okay, yeah.
And there are a lot of resources available, as if Jesus were here, he would remind us there are a lot of resources available on the CP6 website. And we should probably take a fresh look at those and make sure that everything's up there that we know about.
You know, one of the things I did with my students, and it was really very interesting, is I got in contact with all of the agencies I work with, and I said, can you give me references that the kids could use, right? And I got this wonderful list of relevant articles and data and so on. And now I don't, there always seems to be less here in terms of, people who are working on affordable housing and so on, which is mostly what I'm doing, that we could tap into. I guess Met Council would be one.
That is,
And-
yeah.
Yeah, but the rest, I only know out of this district, but, so hopefully you folks would know more what organizations are actually working on housing in our district. Do you know that?
Not off the top of my head, but it's a good research project to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, so somebody should do that, right? Would that be on our
Yeah,
list?
but our sort of collective working group should do that as one of our activities. Make sure we know what all the resources are.
Right. So who will do that? I'm gonna be very concrete. So
Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah,
Do we have someone to volunteer to do that?
I mean, if there is someone who wants to volunteer to just do some survey research into the organizations that are working on housing advocacy and housing data collection, that would be good.
And I would start with Met Council and ask them who else.
Met Council, okay. Anyone wanna volunteer? I'm not gonna volunteer.
I don't want to volunteer.
I'll volunteer.
All
Oh,
right, Good.
yeah, all right,
all right,
okay, thank you.
sure. Is that enough for today for talking about resources? Can I move on the agenda along? Yeah, okay, all right. Cause there is one item of new business that I want to mention at least, which is that it's coming to be time to update our district needs statement. That goes along with our budget requests, which is a narrative description of what we are calling for as a housing agency. There's some overlap between us and the health committee, for various reasons, one of which is that homelessness is kind of a bridge issue between the two committees. And so we want to get an early start on thinking about our district needs. Obviously, some of it will come out of the housing survey conversation. But we can't wait for the survey to be over to start thinking about what we want to ask for. Last year, if I remember correctly, I just did a minor copy edit on our previous year's district needs statements and submitted it. But I think it might be a good year to write a new one, because that copy is probably 3 years old with just minor edits. And so I wanted to kind of put on the table that Brian's gonna circulate our district needs statement, just so that we can read it and think about it and bring the topic up again next month when we meet again. Sandy is here, and I would ask you, is there anything else you would want to say about that?
No, and I guess, I don't know if this committee had time to go through the responses.
Oh, yeah, we have to look at the responses to our budget requests, right?
Okay, yeah. 'cause
Yeah, it's
that's
part of the
other
same
aspect.
package, yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen that. And if I understood correctly, Jesus said that we got more substantive responses this year than in previous
Yes.
years,
Yeah,
which is good.
yeah, I mean, Brian, do you wanna pull them up, or is that too much?
Yeah, we can look for a few minutes
Just like a broad,
if he can bring it up.
broad brush, yeah. It's in the, it's an Airtable thing, and
Stand by while our audiovisual department works on a document.
Virginia, could somebody explain what the district needs statement, what it's about, what you use it for, what happens?
Actually, I'll let our chair take that one.
So this is something that we submit to directly to city government. And we say what we think our district needs in terms of funding and additional, programs. Actually, at Borough Board this morning, we voted all 12 on our response to the city's budget. So, I mean, they cover a huge range of things in this, but, they look to each board to come to, explain what their needs are and what money they want from the city budget.
Okay,
And some of it's very specific and some of it's, we need more, there was a big discussion about whether we needed more policemen.
so if we needed more benches outside,
Yeah.
they would, that's where, and they do it, they say, oh, that's.
Well, we voted, I mean, it's again, it goes to the mayor and it's about the budget, the city budget.
Thank you.
So Brian's put up one of our budget request items on the screen, which is our request for more affordable housing, which is our highest priority. And you can see, in the top half, this is what we wrote, asking for more affordable housing. And then in the agency response field, it's what the city said. And often what the city says in response to these requests is either more information is needed from you in order to complete this request, or this will be accommodated in our normal work as part of our.
Oh, they have the last 2 years response.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
They
There's-
have not responded?
No,
No,
they
they
have-
do, but it's only one sentence. as
Yeah, they
opposed to
in
this year's, which is a
the
paragraph.
previous year, they just said, we'll try to accommodate this with existing resources, but this year they actually wrote us something. So this is good. We need to look at these too.
Okay.
And this Airtable is available to all of us. So when Brian shares our old district needs statement, he'll send you a link for that. So I just want to get everyone's mind moving, so that, I mean, we don't submit this as a community board until October, but October will come faster than we think, given that, we only have a few months before the summer, and then the summer comes and that's it.
Or do you distribute these to Gmail or do you use them? How does this work with?
It's just a link, so
But you send it to which email address?
the email addresses that we have.
Whatever one, the
Okay,
one that
all
you
right,
use, yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
things come to Gmail.
You can access
It's
it
on the
through any.
website. Right?
Yeah, it's on the
It's
website
on
as
the
well.
website.
Okay,
So. So I think so that's my new business item. I don't have any other older new business, this week. Does anyone else have any older new business that you'd like to bring up? I'm looking in the room.
just have a question.
Yeah,
I don't understand what HPD really does, right? Is there some way, could we, again, learn about that? Because I know they do things with affordable housing, but I don't understand it. Do you know something, Aaron? Because you're smiling.
Yeah.
They do a lot.
Yes, so could you tell us at some point? I mean, it doesn't have to be tonight, but
Sure.
I would really, that would be terrific.
Sure. Yeah, more than happy to.
I feel like I caught you.
all right, he's
Thank
young and strong and can handle the load you're putting on his back.
I came up this morning that we need to fully fund HPD because they do so much for affordable.
They do a lot.
Okay,
They
that
do a
would be
lot.
great to.
Yeah,
thank
no,
you.
they're great. They do a lot more than I think most people realize they do.
Okay, so I don't have any other items. Are there any other older new business items anyone else would like to raise? I see no hands here and I see no hands on Zoom. So is there a motion to adjourn our committee?
Motion
Yes.
to adjourn.
Seconded.
All right, and is there any objection? Seeing no objection, I will thank you all for participating today, and we are hereby adjourned at 7:28, which is less than an hour.